Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Pi Day of Giving virtual speaker series event. Today's topic is fostering the development of creativity and critical thinking through maker education. Before we start, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement of the traditional territory in which we are gathering. Our university campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabe Nation, which includes Algonquin, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. Because everyone is turning on with us remotely today across a variety of cities, I don't want to forgo this important element of reconciliation. So I'd like to ask everyone to take a minute to reflect on the traditional territory in which you're on, the treaty which it's covered under, and your own personal relationship with the land. My name is Jody Cowan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator here at Ontario Tech University. As a university community, we're dedicated to increasing our awareness and understanding and the gratitude for the lands we share today. So thank you so much for joining your lunch with us today. Today's session is with Dr. Janette Hughes from our Faculty of Education. It's the first of 10 sessions we're hosting for our Pi Day of Giving Ontario Tech experts to share their research and to spread the word about our Pi Day of Giving. This will help us raise funds for our Student Relief Fund, which helps our students who have financial need and have been impacted by COVID-19. There will be time at the end for questions following the presentation, so please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen at any point during Janette's presentation, and we'll do our best to get back to you. We are recording this session, so we'll post it on our website so you can watch it again or share it with your friends who are unable to join us live today. I would now like to introduce Dr. Janette Hughes from the Faculty of Education. Dr. Hughes is a professor and Canada Research Chair in Technology and Pedagogy here at Ontario Tech. She specializes in the transformation of literacy practices through making and new digital media. Her research and teaching interests include digital literacies, maker pedagogies, STEAM education, women in STEM, social media, and identity construction. She's particularly interested in how critical making and digital media enable users to teach, learn, connect, collaborate, communicate, critique, create, and promote social change. Dr. Hughes is a recipient of the Ontario Ministry of Research Innovation Early Researcher Award and the Ontario Research Fund Research Excellence Award. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Hughes for her presentation on fostering the development of creativity and critical thinking through maker education. Take it away, Janette.
Thanks, Jody. And thank you all for joining us during your lunch hour. As Jody said, I'm Janette Hughes, and I'm a Canada Research Chair in Technology and Pedagogy. And I often say when I'm introduced that it actually should be the CRC in Pedagogy and Technology, because while we do use a lot of technologies in our work, our real focus is on pedagogical approaches to using technologies. So I want to make that distinction. I'm also the director of the STEAM 3D Maker Lab. And our lab is in the Faculty of Education. And I would love to be able to invite you to our lab, but it has been closed during the pandemic, and we've switched to a fully virtual lab format. But if you'd like to take a virtual tour of the lab, we do have a link, and it'll be included at the end of the presentation. And we'd love to host you virtually, at least for now. So the lab houses a lot of low tech, medium tech, and high tech equipment. And some of the things that you see on the screen there are things that we do with our students. So we work with 3D printing. We have students creating circuits that they embed in garments, textiles. For example, they could create a hat that has an LED light that lights up, that they program it to do that. We have a number of different kinds of programmable robots. And we've been playing around for a few years now with virtual and augmented reality, as well as green screen production, artificial intelligence. We had a March break camp last year that focused on the Internet of Things. And a real focus right now for us has been on coding. We work in the lab with students and educators across the lifespan, so right up from kindergarten all the way up to adults. And we work in the lab setting as well as in classrooms and schools. And of course, most recently, we've been doing quite a lot of our work online. Today, I'm going to talk about the importance of the making process in the development of what we call global competencies. Some people call them 21st century skills. Some people call them soft skills. I prefer to think of them as essential skills, as lifelong skills, because they are difficult to develop, and they do help us be successful, not just at school, but also in work and in life. So some of the things that we focus on are things like critical thinking and problem solving, creativity. We're doing a research project right now with the OECD on fostering the development of these two skills, critical thinking and creativity, in teacher development. We focus on how do technologies help us to collaborate and communicate, to become self-directed learners, and also focus on global citizenship, in particular digital citizenship and what that looks like. So what we're doing is combining technologies that can enhance teaching and learning to increase students' digital competencies while also preparing them for the future world of work. Last year, the World Economic Forum released a report on the future of jobs, and it highlighted the top 10 skills that people will need by 2025. And as you can see, the focus is on problem solving, self-management, being able to work with other people, and on technology use and development. These are the things that students who are in school now will be having to focus on in order to get a job in the future. Some of the big tech companies, for example, Facebook and Google, actually rank creativity among the top 3 skills. And that's one of the things that we focus a lot of our attention on in the lab. And just as an important aside, the World Economic Forum also published this in the same report. So what is the share of women in the jobs of tomorrow? So in 2025. And we were a little concerned. We do work in the area of women in STEAM, STEAM being science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. We were concerned about this prediction that women will continue to be underrepresented in the job market, especially in the fields of technology. So how will technologies that are being developed primarily by men serve women, and what can we do to change that? That is one of the reasons that our lab team is comprised of all women. And we work together, we support each other, we lift each other up. And some of my team members are here today, so I want to give them that well-deserved shout out, because I couldn't do what I do without them. So why do we focus on making in school? I mean, we've been doing making since formal school began. You probably remember making things in school, in shop class, or in home economics, as they used to be called, or creating media products. These are hands-on projects, and they tend to stay with us in our memories. They stand out much more so than the facts we learned or the theories we learned. So if you, over the next 12 minutes or so, think about some of these questions, some of this might resonate for you. So what did you make when you were in school? How did you make it? What did you make it for? What was the purpose of the making? How much freedom did you have in the making process? Who was the audience for your making? Was it just the teacher, or was it, did it go beyond an audience of one? What happened to what you made after you made it, after it was evaluated, graded? Was it a positive experience? What might have made it a more positive experience? And just as an aside, the stained glass piece on the right there is my most recent creative piece. And I'm going to come back to this, but being creative or having a creative outlet is something that will help you get through tough times. And this is what I'm relying on during the pandemic. I've been doing a lot more creating than I normally do. So what is new about making in schools if we've been doing it for decades, probably centuries? Well, a number of things are changing, and in terms of both what students are making, but in also the processes they use to make. First of all, the technologies that we now have available to us are much more user-friendly and accessible. They have low floor, which means they have an easy access point, but they also have a high ceiling, which means that they can be adapted and used at various different levels. And the internet enables makers to connect with each other. They share their processes, they ask questions on forums, they find instructional videos, and they celebrate each other's creations beyond their immediate families and friends, or in the case of schooling, their teachers. So what are maker pedagogies then? Maker pedagogies are play-based in that they focus on students' imaginations and creativity. They are inquiry-based because they keep student learning at the forefront, and they define not only what they learn, but also how they learn it. And they're also project or problem driven in that we ask students to work on solving a real world problem. They are also design based. So students engage in a non-linear process. They're working towards generating a product or solution to a problem. So what they do is they generate ideas through brainstorming, they create prototypes. If they're creating a product, they test them, they make adjustments as they go, and then all of this is learning through doing, learning through tinkering and playing. They're also collaborative. So we use a socio-constructivist approach that encourages students to work in teams or with others, to share and to help each other, and to learn through the doing together. And finally, they are passion-based. So we're giving students more voice and choice in their learning, which promotes self-direction and often civic engagement. And I want to just sort of contrast that to the kind of making that you may have done in school. Certainly the making that I did when I was in elementary school and high school was very focused on, it was very teacher directed. The teacher had a model or a prototype of something, and we were told, this is what you're going to make. And the more that it looked like that product, the higher your mark was. But if it varied at all, then your mark might not have been as high. So it was very product driven, whereas now we're focused more on process. So teachers who are using these kinds of pedagogies with their students are able to create a culture in the classroom that promotes risk-taking, reflection, perseverance. Note, I keep trying even when I get stuck on the slide there. They promote cooperation and teamwork as opposed to competition. And they very much promote a kind of learning while doing, a kind of just in time support as opposed to a just in case kind of learning. So these are the kinds of skills and dispositions that we really want our students to have to be successful in school, in work, in life. And just to give you an example of some of the kinds of research projects we currently have on the go, in April, because March break has been pushed back to April, we're calling it now spring break, we're doing a virtual camp for students that explores design and coding in Minecraft. And Minecraft is a wildly popular program for youth to go into to build things. We're using the education edition, and we're focusing on the development of communication and collaboration skills. They'll be working in teams, as well as some very important social emotional learning skills. You may have heard that Ontario has a new math curriculum that incorporates coding. So we are partnering with the Math Knowledge Network and some teachers in the Rainy River District School Board, which is way up north in Fort Francis. We're doing this online, of course, and we're examining the best practices for a math-focused professional learning through both making and coding. And We have a collaboration with some colleagues at the University of Ottawa, the Faculty of Education, and a project called Making Minds. And what we're doing there is looking at how maker pedagogies might benefit at-risk students in developing the kinds of digital literacy skills that they will need, so computational skills and digital fluency, in order that so that they don't get left behind. So we want to make sure that making and learning are equitable for all students. And as part of the educational community, it's very important for us to support teachers. And teachers have needed a lot of support during this pandemic. And so during the pandemic from March last year until June and continuing on into the fall, we have offered some help, more than 25 sessions for teachers in Ontario and beyond Ontario as well. And those sessions have focused on whatever the needs of the teachers were that were identified by them. And these all occurred online via Google Meet. And we also invited some of those teachers to bring their classes to work with us. And we did some interactive sessions on making and coding. And this was all born out of a concern that it's easier when you're teaching online to upload a video of the teacher talking. And we wanted to make sure that teachers were equipped to be able to offer the same kinds of interactive, hands-on kinds of activities that we know students learn best from using. I want to emphasize, because I talked at the beginning about the future job skills and what students need to be able to do to be employed in 2025. I want to emphasize that education is not just about preparing students for the workforce, though. There is an increased demand for creative individuals in the workforce. Research has shown that. But we also know that creative art making leads to higher positive affect and also promotes well-being by lowering cortisol levels. So if you talk to people who make things, knitters, quilters, me with my stained glass, that's another one of my recent pieces. When they're in the process of making, they report that they feel relaxed, content, calm. Some people will describe it as being in the zone or in a state of flow. And then you kind of lose yourself in what you're doing. And that is good for our mental health and also, of course, our physical health, which is dependent on our mental health. We also know from the research that working alongside others on creative endeavors is good for social well-being. And that is definitely something that we need to focus on now when more and more people are feeling lonely, isolated, and frustrated as this pandemic continues. So along this line, I wanted to leave off by talking a little bit about future research that I'm going to be doing with a colleague, two colleagues actually, Dr. Jennifer Lafayette, who has, she's the director of the Mental Health in the Digital Age Lab, and a nonprofit called Tech for Good Canada. And what we're doing is attempting to address this growing trend towards an asocial society. So we know that there's a rise of people living alone. We know because of the changing nature of work, a lot more people are working from home, so it's more isolating. And we also know that some antisocial development has happened, in terms of the use of technology. I don't think you have to go too far away from your social media to find that. And these things could lead to risks to mental and physical health, change in the way that communities and individuals interact with each other. It could contribute to a rise in antisocial behavior. And that also may mean that we need more government control in cyberspace in order to regulate how technologies offer social experiences. And I'm not sure that we want more government intervention. So what we're doing is focusing on developing a new model for critical digital citizenship education that doesn't focus just on protecting students from online risks. And a lot of these programs right now, they're really focused on a protectionist stance We call them risk narratives, because they're all about having to protect kids from cyberbullying or sexting. We know that our students are going to be using social media, so it's better to focus on positioning them as change makers who have agency to use their digital skills in online spaces to engage in empowered activism. So what we want to do is encourage pro-social behaviors as opposed to asocial or antisocial behaviors. And sorry, just one more note on that. We do know that youth in particular, as a subset of the population, are more prone to loneliness and depression than many of the other age groups. So our focus is on youth. So I want to leave you with this question. What will your next maker project be? Will you sew masks like my mom has been doing for her family and friends? Or will you knit a friend a scarf, or maybe something for yourself? Or will you take on a cause like trying to save our pollinators by creating homemade bee homes? Whatever it is that you decide to do, I hope it brings you joy and happiness, and I hope it alleviates some of the stress that this pandemic has caused. If you would like to learn more, we have many other research projects on the go, and I've only highlighted a few things. But if you would like to get more information on the kinds of things we're doing in the lab, you can check out our website. The link is there, and that's where you'll also find the virtual tour. And I hope that one day, very soon, we can meet in the lab. And I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Janette, for sharing your expertise with us today. That was great. And I think that I speak for a lot of the parents on the panel today that I definitely found your presentation very thought-provoking for someone who has young children. I do have questions from the audience. The first one is, do you think that shifting March break to April will cause added stress to students? And if so, do you have any tips for some parents?
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, it will definitely cause added stress to the extent that parents will have to make arrangements that they may have to make rearrangements compared to what they've already done. I think it might be an okay time to do a spring break because they did have a longer Christmas. Not that they had a break. And this is something that I've kind of been pushing back against. People have been talking about how when the schools closed, the schools didn't close. Teachers and students were still working really hard. So I think we need to make that distinction. But in terms of tips, what I would say to parents is don't worry so much about things that are Googleable. It's hard to say. What you want to do is bake with your children, get them to go outside, bring in pieces of nature and make things, and then write a poem about it. That's a project that we did with some students in Rainy River. There are many things that you can do that promote the kinds of global competencies that I've been talking about. Anything that you can Google in terms of knowledge, we should be moving away from that in education anyway, and we should be focusing on skills-based competencies. And I think that parents are equipped to do those kinds of things just by giving their kids experiences. And it's going to be stressful no matter what. It's a pandemic. It's stressful.
Which brings us into a really great segue to our next question, Dr. Hughes, is, does the shift to online learning concern you? Do you think it will give rise to a lack of hands-on skills and experiences for students?
It definitely has concerned me. And as I said, I think it's easier for teachers to record a video and upload that than it is to ensure that students have the materials, for example, that they need to do kinds of hands-on work. What I suggest is that we flip the classroom. And by that, I mean, you can ask students to do a lot of the kind of prep work for a class prior to coming to class that that focuses on the knowledge base that they need, because I'm not saying that knowledge is not important. It is. It's just that it's more easily accessible. What we want to reserve class time for online is that kind of interaction with the teacher and the students, and with the students and their peers, because in terms of isolation and just good pedagogy, we know that we learn better when we work together, when we talk things through, when we work things through together. So yes, it's definitely a concern, and I think it can be done. I think it can be done well. And I've been teaching online for the last 20 years in various different combinations. So I think it can be done. I think we have to make sure that we give teachers the skills to be able to do it well, and the technologies, right? Because what we can do in terms of pedagogy is only as good as what we have access to use online.
One of our panelists is asking, what age group is the STEAM Lab for, and is the STEAM Lab available online?
The STEAM Lab is definitely available online. All of our work right now is virtual. We have a designated email account that people contact us via, and it is for all ages. So we go from kindergarten right up. So a lot of the work that we do is with elementary, but we've worked with high school. We also do a lot of work with our pre-service education program students, so the teacher candidates who are training to be teachers. And we've done work with even higher education instructors, trying to help them get online. So we work with all ages.
One last question we have is, as a parent and pediatric nurse, I'm very excited about the work that you are doing. Do you have any practical resources and activity ideas that are available to the public on your lab website?
We definitely do. So we did a ministry project with Ministry of Education that ended about 2 years ago. And so in the process of doing that work with 60 teachers across 20 school boards, they developed lesson plans and ideas for, I think we have 200, and they're in French and English, and they're on the website as well. And we also have a number of other ideas. Every Tuesday we tweet out Tech Tool Tuesday, so we focus on a technology to try to build innovation into teaching and learning. So the website has a lot of information, and if you don't find what you're looking for, then contact us via our email, and we'll get back to you.
Great, thanks so much, Janette, and thank you so much for sharing your lunch hour with us. As I mentioned earlier, this is our 4th Pi Day of Giving, that we're celebrating the infinite possibilities for our students here at Ontario Tech. We all know this year has been difficult for everyone, and we are finally able to look forward to getting back to campus after we were able to switch to virtual learning after just 1 day. So that's something we're very proud of. But our students need help more than ever, and I really hope that you will join us by supporting our Student Relief Fund by making a gift to help support students with urgent financial needs that were unexpected due to lost or reduced part-time jobs. And all donations to our Student Relief Fund will be matched dollar for dollar. For those of you who did donate, when you registered, I do thank you. I'm happy to say that we've given out nearly $400,000 to students in addition to our regular scholarship and bursary program. In that vein, I would also really like to thank Kemp Travel Group for their generous sponsorship of today's Pi Day of Giving and for the rest of the speaker series. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope that you'll enjoy spending your lunch hour with us from now until the 14th for the remaining of our speaker series sessions. You can find more details on the remaining speakers and our topics on our website at ontariotechu.ca/Pi Day.
On March 14th, you can help support my dreams.
Knowledge is infectious, and my dream is to teach.
My dream is to educate young students about the benefits of physical activity so that they can adopt these practices into their daily lives.
My goal is to contribute to innovative technologies that leave a lasting impact on society.
On Pi Day, join our circle and support students like me. I want to help save people from natural disasters.
I want to be part of engineering projects that help make tech be your best friend.
I want to develop technology to aid in space exploration.
I aspire to design aerodynamic race cars to shape the future of Formula One racing.
Just like the values of Pi, opportunities for students like me are endless, so join us.